Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So today we're going to be doing another I was going to do top 5, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do top 6, and 2 of my 6 are combinations. I was like, I couldn't whittle this down anymore. So I'm going to do my top 6 open source free Linux applications to take control of your digital media management. And as you may know by following my videos, or if this is the first video you have found, that what I was trying to do is really, I've been working on taking full control over more aspects of my life. And as technology has come upon the world, we are becoming more slaves to the technology. But what comes with the technology is the locked-in accounts, and that is really the big challenges. As I was having a discussion with somebody in the comments not too long ago, trying to get iTunes on the Linux, and I said, you know, there's other reasons, because I immediately, I made a bad assumption, and that's that they had an iPhone and they're trying to manage their phone. I said, well, I manage my phone in other ways. And he says, or he or she says, well, it's not a matter of managing a phone. It's that I bought some movies on iTunes, and I can't, I can't watch them without iTunes. And that got us into this discussion about loyalty versus dependence. It doesn't matter to the company whether we are loyal to them or whether we are dependent on them, as long as we are repeat customers. That is what they care about. And so Apple does it brilliantly with iTunes, Amazon does it brilliantly with Prime, and Microsoft is now getting to the point they're a little late to the table, like they've been lately. They've been late on mobile and they lost it. They've been late on their store, and the only way that their store might possibly override all of this is because of how prevalent Microsoft is, especially with this new Windows 10S that is coming out. I think is potentially going to be part of it. So with that being said, we started this discussion. I dribbled some tea all over. We started this discussion in my office about taking better control of digital media, especially as I go back and realize the importance of minimalism in my life. And it's important that we get rid of the excess garbage that's all around us. And I've been working towards that general goal. And as I am doing that, I identified the key programs and the reasons why I'm using a lot of these software applications. See, back not too long ago, I had to move contacts around, and it occurred to me, I have no idea how you can get contacts off of this phone outside of syncing them with iTunes. So I did a little bit of finding out, and it just turns out that that I end up getting an app that I could take all the contacts and email them to myself. And that's what I end up doing to get the contacts out. Well, Androids are much nicer because the newer Androids have an actual file structure. You can plug in an SD card and open up the contact file and import the contacts. Even as I got rid of the other Android, I went back to this little flip phone. Because this guy has an SD slot here, I was actually able to transport all my contacts onto here because I have a copy of my contacts. Now, of course, obviously we can sync our contacts with Gmail, we can sync our contacts with iTunes, we can sync our contacts with the various things. The reason I don't want to do that is twofold. The first is, it is very possible to have your account with these services suspended, okay? Usually what happens if you do something stupid, but suppose that it's just a technical glitch, something occurs and they end up closing out the account, and you should attempt to contact them and convince them to let you back in. Good luck. Well, if your contacts are so synced and that's all you have, you have a problem there. Problem B, I guess there's three reasons. The second reason is I don't want them to have access to all my contacts, because they can now make the deep connections about who I know, and whether they're doing it externally or internally or publicly or privately, they're still making deep connections about who's who. And if you follow things, you know that Facebook actually got out a patent on how to link credit scores, and it came out that they were trying to come up with a way to add a portion of a credit score based upon who your friends and associates are. And that's, to me, is scary. Of course, I want to say it was China that started doing some of that. Wanted to come up with like a kind of like a credit score for like personal associations and things. Well, those are scary things, and of course, so privacy is one of those. And the third reason is to get off of the loyalty. What if Apple decides to do something so boneheaded, I never want to touch an Apple product again? Well, if I'm so tied into iTunes, I'm so tied into my iAccount, I can probably get in there once, transfer to Gmail, and move over to something else. But I want to be more intentional than that. And that's the thing is, as this technology comes in, the technology is supposed to make us easier. In fact, our pastor at our church was talking about this on Sunday, and and he's pulling in some old funny quotes, and one of them was from, I think it was a Time magazine in 1965, and they said, by 100 years from now, like 2065, technology is going to so improve our lives that we will be working 20-hour work weeks, and we will effectively produce a mass leisure class. It's from Time magazine in 1965. Well, the technology, all that it's done is it made us deeply dependent upon us. It has made us busier, but it causes so much extra distraction that when we learn to be intentional, we are better off. So, what I wanted to say is, talking all of that to introduce the first program that I use is KAddress. Now, I've turned off, I went in and I turned off my address books. I could just click them there. So if I just turn this on and click this on, then what I have here is a giant list of all my names. And I'm not going to do this just for privacy of my contacts. Then if I click on any one of these guys here, then it will allow me to view all of the contact information there. So this is a way that I can very intentionally manage all my contacts. Now, here's a problem that I've encountered on the apps. Like, I've not been able, prior to the last year and a half, I did use Verizon's syncing to sync my contacts. But I ran into a problem that there's people that I don't talk to anymore, and I wanted to delete them out of my contacts books. Every single time I logged the thing back in, it would resync all those contacts. It's like I couldn't, and I hunted all over Verizon's site. I could not figure out a way to do it. Now, of course, if you just download everything in the app and they're producing the new Verizon Cloud, and I want nothing to do with that. And so I had to start looking for means of transferring contacts that didn't do that. Even this phone here, I took this phone to the store to say, I would like you to take all the contacts from this and put them onto this. Because there used to be a device, you'd plug in this, and transfer the contacts, and then you'd go ahead and sync all the contacts. Well, they don't have those anymore. And Verizon does not have a way for me to put my contacts on this anymore. But with this KAddress book, I was able to do it. Because what happens is there is a little folder on the SD card, and it just says My Contacts. And I can come over here, and in the File and Export menu, I can export the type of card. Now, for this phone here, I'm not sure if it takes the 4.0 card. I know that this phone exported contacts as 2.1. So I went ahead and exported as 2.1. Now, when you go to export a contact, you can choose selected contacts, which is not highlighted because I have no contacts selected. You can do all contacts, or you can do all contacts from very specific places. So I have this separated out into a personal contacts and a business contacts, and this is a separate folder. Now, it looks like the way I have this set up, I think that this folder here is syncing everything in the top folder. I'm not completely sure. This actually showed up after I had done these extra things, and the reason is where the contacts are being stored at. So where these are actually being stored is in your personal folder. And if you Control H to view everything inside of Share, where's it at? Oh, it's .local, under Share, and then here is where you can, let's see, under Contacts. So this is all of these V cards correspond to a different contact. And this is how the system does them. Now, you can't just drop contacts right into this folder. You do have to manage them through the top, but it will automatically do that. So here is where the business contacts are, and here is where the regular contacts are. Of course, the warning underscore readme text tells you not to drop contacts into here, so you can see what that says there. All right. So that's kind of where those are stored. So I can choose to export them, and I can export them as a single file or as multiple files. Okay, so if I just do all contacts from personal, you'll see we now have the option to export several files or export to one file. So you need to look up each phone. On this phone, which is an Alias 2 from Samsung, what I had to do is I simply plugged and mounted the SD card into here. I did not know if this would take one file or not, and I just didn't want to risk it knowing how this exported them. I just used that as the means to export. So I hit export to several files. I went right into the My Contacts folder, dropped all the contacts in, and then plugged the card in, go into here under Contacts and import all data, and that imported all the data onto the phone. Literally, that was it. And so now if I go into here and open this up and click on My Contacts, I now have all of my contacts onto this phone. So that way, you know, if I'm out and about, this phone will have, you know, if I'm out and about on a trip, I can take both phones with me. If this one gets dropped in some toilet somewhere, hey, I still have a phone with all my contacts in it. All right. Of course, I can export this as a PDF file as well. We're going to cancel that. I can let's see, export. So export as PDF, or it might be print. I think what you do is you print to a PDF file, and then that will allow you to print it out to a PDF file. And so you can do that and just fold it up and stuff it in your glove box in your car, and you can have access to your contact books in your car. Well, try doing that on your digital thing. And I realized, yeah, our phones are so nice, but what happens when you leave your phone at home? What happens when you drop it? What happens when you break it? What happens when you're out on a trip and your phone gets lost, stolen, whatever else, and now you need to make an important phone call with somebody? Do you remember your phone numbers? But if you have a printed copy in your glove box, you can now make an important phone call. Now, of course, the other person may not answer the phone because it's some number that's not calling. They don't know it's calling. I don't know who that number is. It must be a scam. You know, in which case, leave a good voicemail and they'll get back to you. Okay, but KAddress book allows me to store all my contacts, manage my contacts. It will allow me to update any of the files. Like I have a friend here that got rid of the home phone. I still need to get in here and get rid of the file, the home phone address, and then I can go in and export it. Now, what happens if I meet a new person? It's a very simple matter. I can come in here. Now, there's a couple things. If I'm on an Android, I could actually export this and email it to myself and merge the new contacts in. On the iPhone, much harder to do that because I didn't want to keep that app on the phone. I installed it, used it, got the information off. But it's really not a big deal that, you know, if I come home from a conference and I met 5 people, well, first, I don't put everybody just because I met them in my address book. I save that for people I actually know. But if I did want to do that, I could still come in here and spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the evening and manually input addresses in the contact book. And it's not all that hard, you know, it's really not. But again, this is about being intentional, and sometimes intentional isn't always easy because it takes a little bit more work to be intentional, but we are moving into a better direction. So KAddress book, that's the first program I'm using to manage my digital life. The second one, and I wish I still had something around here to experiment with, but Handbrake. So on this, I've actually went out and I used to do a lot of things like camp counseling and stuff like that. And so what I have here, let's see, I can't remember what I have where. But what I had is I had some, where are they at? There we go. So I had some camp photos here, and what we had is they gave us, at one point in time, they gave us or not MP3, they gave us DVDs. And so you have a DVD of your week at camp. Well, that's kind of cool, but after doing several weeks at camp, I had a stack of DVDs like this tall. I'm like, okay, I don't actually need these things around anymore. So Handbrake will allow you to put in a DVD, and then as you put in the DVD, you come over here to source, and you will scan the DVD, and then it will tell you all the chapters, all the titles, all the things up here, and then you can add it to the queue up here. This shows you your queue, and then push start, and it will rip all your DVDs off onto this. Of course, if you go to a Redbox and you rent a DVD and you do this, you are breaking the law, so don't do that. Okay, but this will allow you to take perfectly legal things like my camp DVDs and export them right over here. And I'm not going to play them because, you know, there's minors on those, so I'm not going to go ahead and play any of those. But it allowed me to take a digital copy of all of these and then throw away the DVDs so that I didn't have piles and piles of stuff laying around. But Handbrake is an excellent program to allow you to do that. Also, I have things like sermons that, you know, many of the sermons will be like, you know, as long as you follow there are certain copyright protections, you're allowed to make a copy of it, blah, blah, blah. So I went through, dug in the policies on those, and, you know, those ones that they expressly allow you to do that, I can actually use Handbrake to take a video copy of those sermons. So the next one that I was using, and I did this as a combination of OBS and KAddress Live, and hopefully if I load OBS it won't crash anything here. But with OBS, let me just go back, verify that I'm still getting noise there. So with OBS, this is the program that has allowed me, if you watched my my program on, or the video the other day on capturing my VHS tapes. So I have, let me grab it. Okay, so here is my little video capture card. So the idea here is you take your RCA cables, you plug these into the back of your VCR, and then plug those guys right into here. And then this guy here is just a very simple, very cheap video capture card. Plug this right into the back of the computer. OBS will identify this as a video capture device. So use a video capture device and then use an audio capture device. And then that enabled you to record the video. So I just came down here and I showed you all the specific settings that I was using on the other video there. But briefly, I just came into here and I actually used very simple output settings. To do these, record these videos when I'm using OBS, I use much higher settings. All right, but I use OBS, and then the other program that I would use with OBS, at times the file would come out a little bit too large, or I would get things that I needed to clip and crop. So you'd use KAddress Live here to clip or crop anything out, or you could use KAddress Live up here, and you can choose various settings inside here, so you could actually use KAddress Live to re-encode or to transcode it to different settings. So that enabled me to make copies of my old VHS tapes. So any of the VHS tapes that I had laying around, I could go ahead and just have a copy of those. So that is what I was using for doing video things. The next program combination I used was Banshee and Kid3. Now the reason I like Banshee rather than many of the other media players is I really just like its layout is very much like the old Windows, is it Windows Media Player? Which I love the media player. When they got rid of it, hey, that's a huge reason I don't want to use Windows 10. I like the Windows Media Player. It would simply read the things that I had, read the files that I had. So, and then what I liked about Banshee here is I can see, now this is, I've done a whole lot better job of keeping the tags here. But you can see that this one here has a capital I. This one here has a lowercase I, so I could very quickly spot the things that were different there. So this would show me if there were any errors in the things. And actually, I want to say that I actually had already fixed that. I just hadn't updated the library. So let me just go back and rescan the music library, see if that shows up again. Like I said, I was pretty sure I fixed it. So you can see here now that I rescanned the library, I only have one Adventures in Odyssey, and it was one of these two here that was incorrectly put on there. Of course, I actually recorded an Adventures in Odyssey. This is it here with an old little brother of mine. And we went down there to focus on the family and recorded our own episode in KAddress Kids Radio Studio. It was totally awesome. Banshee is what I use to test and sample, but I'll also use it just to make sure I don't have any errors in the names specifically. But Kid3 is what you actually use to edit your individual cards here. So these are all MP3s that came from I had a special edition. I think this is Defending Your Faith, which is a R.C. Sproul overview of classical apologetics. And this is the special bonus edition. It comes with the MP3 disc. So plug in the computer, take the MP3s. Well, when we did these, the only thing that was on here were the tag 2s. The tag 1s were missing. And I know that my MP3 player does not work with tag 2s. So I have to use the tags, the 1.1 version tags. And so literally I could just come over here and I could copy them all just like this. Let me start up at 1, copy them all like this. And over here, just copy from tag 2. It would take everything from tag 2, transport it up to tag 1. Done. Hit the save button, and that fixed everything. So I could come into here, and I can then identify any of the tags. Like if I had found a tag that needed fixed, I could just come down here. So like I want to say this is the one I just purchased, and so I encoded all these onto here, and then I could come over here and just verify all of the information, and this will enable me to manage everything manually without having to go out and use the internet resources, which I find frequently are not in good shape, especially since, as you notice, this is a giant sermon collection mostly. This is not regular media that like regular music and things like that. So that's why I've always managed this, and I've been keeping this collection going for years upon years. That's why, it's so large, but I've been doing this type of media management. I want to say 12 or 14 years I've been keeping this collection going. And so making sure that it's cross-platform, cross-portable is very important. Actually, that's why I use MP3s. I tried WMAs at one point in time, but I found a lot of things wouldn't do them. Of course, I tried it because, much smaller. I should be able to get more and more space. Nah, they don't work as well. So that's why I stuck with MP3s rather than OGG formats or things like that. So I know. Richard Stallman would hate me, but that's okay. We're going to stick with MP3s for the time being. But Kid3 is a fabulous tagger system for manually tagging. Of course, I use Audacity to record my Odysseys and other things that I have on CD that need to come onto a digital format. So Audacity will allow me to do that. It'll allow me to record the old cassette tapes I've laying around, and I actually have a video on how I do that as well. In that case, you need some type of small soundboard. I'm just using a basic mic USB interface. It's the USB interface I have for my cooking channel. But you plug that into here, and then you can click the monitoring. Now, of course, here it's defaulting from the microphones. It's not actually picking up what I'm recording from. So I can actually come in and, let's see, is it here? I'm also afraid if I pick the wrong setting, it might actually grab from my microphone and it might mess up my what I'm recording on my simple screen recorder there. But I'll go ahead and link the video here so you can watch the Audacity video, see more detail about how to use Audacity. But I basically use this to catalog all of my audio files. And then the last program that I'm using is you need something to manage your images. So I was actually able to take a massive, let me see if I can find that picture for you guys. It'll be fairly small. I apologize because I'm, if I'm doing OBS, I could expand the camera size, but here I really can't. So I actually went through my photographs and I was able to cut back a lot of my photos, and these are the pile of photographs that I got rid of. Binders, photos, all sorts of things. I got everything condensed down into one little binder, and then eventually I'm going to come in and digitalize all those. I'll probably keep the original old photographs as well, but I do want a digital copy of them should anything happen. But to do any of these scanning, I'm doing scanning onto I'm doing my scanning onto either of, sometimes I have some study guides, sometimes I might have notes laying around I need, or just some images. So I have this nice image here of the old Gutless Wonders, that car over there, that gray car is the Gutless Wonder. That thing was held together by some crazy divine force. Old car, I think I paid $100 for it or something. It lasted me a good 6 months or so. I want to go ahead and keep this photograph, so simple scan is what I'm using for that. Now, the cool thing about running this on Ubuntu Mate here is I did not have to do anything with the scanner. I plug the thing in, it automatically identifies and recognizes that this is a scanner. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug this into the scanner down here, and I'll be right back. I found a cat. Hi everyone, use Ubuntu Mate, it rocks. Cat's less than enthused. Let me put it back. Alright, buddy. He's like, I don't know what just happened, but I was like in this awesome dream and all of a sudden I get picked up. Alright, so down here we can choose our scan settings, so single page or all pages from a feeder. I'm not sure if this feeder works or not, so I'm going to have to give that a try. And then we can choose whether we're scanning text or a photo. And then if I come up here into, I gotta find where that is again, up here into preferences, it'll tell you this is my scanner. If my text resolution for setting it on text is at 150 dpi, photo resolution is at 300 dpi, so I can actually set this and go to like super high if I wanted. That'd be interesting. I'm just going to keep it at 300. It's fine. Scanning side, front and back, front or back. This thing only has a single side scanner, last I knew. And then page size automatic. I'm just going to go ahead and use the automatic. So I can do the brightness here. I can do the quality here. So all that setting is there. Go ahead and push the scan button. It's going to scan. Okay, and then if I want to save the whole thing, I can just go ahead and hit the save button. If I want to crop it out, I can just go ahead and grab the crop and then just drag this to the directions that I want to grab it to. So I can set my dimensions just like that, and then hit the save button, and then what I can do is choose how I want to save it. So we'll save this, well, let's go with a compressed JPEG file. Hit save, and then let's go ahead and have a look at it. Double click, so there is the compressed JPEG file. So that's not too bad of a scan from an old just an old photograph I had laying around. Of course, I can, let's go ahead and right click. I don't know, what do I have installed on this thing to open with? I don't think I've actually installed any other graphics programs. No, I don't. I was going to say if I had like Krita or GIMP or something on here, I'd show you all the settings. But so those are my top, I guess, 6 applications that I'm using to manage my digital media. There's a few other things. Of course, the disks application is something that if you need to format any disks or things like that, you know, I was using that a little bit. I also, an honorable mention is Brassario, if I can find it. Presario is just very awesome, very simple CD and DVD burner. The reason I didn't include it is I'm trying to get stuff out of here, not add more. But if I do want to create a new MP3 CD or something for the car, I'm going to use Presario for that. So those are my top picks for the applications on Ubuntu Mate that will help you manage your digital media life. Remember, be intentional about what you're doing, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.